Going on, guys? Coach Mix here from my own Foreign Center. Today's lecture is titled Workout Programming, a Crash Course for Beginners. So we want to put this lecture together to help those looking to go about it on their own, those with less experience who might be new to the iron game. We want to hopefully give them some tools to help them plan and implement their own workouts at home or in their own facilities or etc. Right? So again, while this is not all encompassing, right? We're looking to gear this towards those entering the iron game for the first time or perhaps are unfamiliar with it to help give them some teeth to actually design their own workouts effectively and optimize their own training. So let's look at our toolbox first. Okay, when looking to structure our workouts, we have some tools at our disposal to help make it simple. First one's movements, right? This is where we're actually going to pick exercise that fit in certain patterns, help set up a framework for our selections. Next, we could use tempos. This is where we can adjust, if we're looking at a squat, for example, the down phase, the bottom of the phase, and of course the up part, right? We can actually manipulate the time that we do those movements. We could also look at equipment, right? What do we have access to? Dumbbells, body weight, bands, barbells, etc. And then finally, we have our set rep schemes, right? Where we can actually manipulate the volume, right? Using different reps and different pairings to actually get the adaptation we want. So first things first, when we're building our blueprint, we want to identify our training goal, right? And again, it doesn't have to be extreme. It could be very simple. It could be something as simple as I want to aim to do 10 push-ups by the end of the month. I want to lose a pound a week. I want to go to bed earlier, etc., etc. Whatever you decide to do, just make sure it's actually measurable, realistic, and you put some time on it so you can actually quantify it day by day, week by week. All right? Again, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So let's lay the foundation. We're going to look at what we call these 6 essential movement patterns. Now, I know it seems a little bit intimidating, right? But this is kind of where we categorize all of our exercises as we go down the chain. Okay, so we have 6 of them: squat, hinge, press, pull, lunge, and carry. Okay, we'll go through each with a couple examples as well. So the first 3, squat, hinge, and lunge. Our squat pattern, we have both bilateral or 2-leg and single leg. Okay, typical ones are your back squat, front squat, goblet squat, etc., etc. A couple single leg examples: you might have rear foot elevated split squat. You might do a front foot elevated split squat. You might just do a standard split squat. Though again, those are just a couple examples. Of course, you can always modify those as well. For our hinge patterns, right, hip dominant stuff, we're looking at on 2 legs or deadlift, good mornings, RDLs. Right, if we're doing single leg, we have like a single leg RDL, kickstand. We could also do hip thrusts, that sort of thing. We're looking at our lunge patterns, right? We look at vertical and horizontal, vertical being like our step-ups, and horizontal being our forward, backwards, or sides. Okay, and again, there's a lot of variations you can go about it, right? These are just a couple examples. A simple Google search, if you Google like a squat exercise or a hinge exercise, will pop up a bunch of examples that you can use, right? So keep that in mind, don't get too overwhelmed. We're looking at our press, pull, and carry. We could look at it from a vertical and horizontal aspect, but also from a 2-arm or single-arm aspect. So kind of keep that in mind. For vertical presses, we have like your standard overhead press. We can do bodyweight dips, seated overhead presses. Again, you can use dumbbells, barbells. You can do 2 arms, 1 arm. For horizontal, you have your bench press. You can do push-ups, floor presses. You can do single arm, dumbbell bench, incline, that kind of thing, right? So again, the options are pretty much endless, but those are just a couple examples. For our pulls, vertical pull examples could be chin-ups, cable pull-downs, that sort of thing. Horizontal, we can look at bench rows, bent rows, inverted, seated cable, anything where we're kind of driving our elbows back, okay? For our carries, we call them uprights or frictions based on how we're carrying the load. So for example, upright is like your standard farmer's carry, suitcase carry, right? We are parallel with direction of force. Friction is more of like our sled work, right? We're actually opposing at a 90-degree angle the load. So for example, sled has the force vector going down. We're trying to push it across. All right, so again, those are our 6 central movement patterns. We can pick exercises to help build our template, right? Again, a simple Google search of any of those categories will give you a plethora of exercise selections that might fit best for you. Again, some are complex, some are simple, but pick the one that's right for you. Let's talk about tempos in our toolbox. The first we're going to talk about is eccentrics, or the down phase, if we're looking at a squat, for example. And we'll look to do for beginners extended eccentrics. What this is going to do is help not only increase time under tension to help stimulate better muscle growth, but it's also great for learning technique, right? Again, slow and controlled is the way to go when we're trying to learn a new skill. And that's what our exercises are, right? They are skills, and how we express them, right, will vary from person to person. So if we're looking at eccentrics, it's the down phase of our squat example. You might choose to lower it anywhere from 4 to 10 seconds. Okay, and you might try to increase that time under tension week after week. For example, week 1, you might do 4 seconds, week 2, 5 seconds, etc., etc. The next tempo we're going to look at is isometrics, or the bottom position. This is where we're typically going to have a pause. Okay, so isometrics, we're going to look at 2. For beginners, right? Yielding is where we can just pause at various positions throughout the lift, right? And we'll look to pause anywhere from 3 to 6 seconds. Again, you can kind of pick that range. So looking at the squat, we might pause at the bottom. We might pause halfway up. It's up to you, really, right? So again, tons of variety there, but keep it simple, right? Yielding isometrics is pick a position of the movement and pause it for 3 to 6 seconds. If we're looking to do overcoming isometrics, this is where we're kind of pushing or pulling against immovable objects. So for example, if we put the bar against the pins for a deadlift, for example, and we try to lift it up, obviously we can't lift the rack up, it's immovable, but the effort we're putting into it can actually stimulate some pretty great strength gains. But again, this is a little more advanced, holding it for 3 to 10 seconds. So again, you have your eccentrics, where the lowering part, isometrics, we're pausing at various positions, mostly at the bottom. Okay. Finally, the last phase of tempos is the concentric. This is just the up portion of the lift. Usually the hard part, right? If we're squatting, for example, getting the weight up. If you're doing a bench, for example, getting the weight up off your chest. We want to keep it really simple. While there are different types of eccentrics and tempos we could use for it, just keep it simple. Push hard. So let's talk about some fun stuff, set and rep schemes, all right? So what we've done is put a couple bundles together already for based on common training goals. So if we're looking to have some more endurance work, right? We're looking at 60 plus total repetitions. And here we have a couple set rep schemes that might work for you, right? 3 sets of 20, 4 sets of 15, 5 sets of 15, 3 sets, first set being 50, then 30, then 20. There's a ton of variety there, right? But we're looking to get more than 60 total repetitions, however you decide to break it up, okay? Next, hypertrophy or muscle mass, right? Muscle gaining. Again, we're looking to aim anywhere from 30 to 60 total repetitions. Again, this is not even including your tempo, so keep that in mind, okay? A couple examples, maybe 3 sets of 12, 4 sets of 10. You might do a pyramid of 5 sets of 10, 8, 6, 8, 10. You might do descending, 15, 12, 10, 8, right? So again, pick the bundle there that's best for you. If we're looking to look at some more strength work, we're looking to go heavier. We're going to keep it between 3 and 25 total repetitions, right? 3 sets of 3 with lots of rest in between, right? Might do a 3, 2, 1. Again, we're looking to probably rest 2 to 5 minutes depending. You know, a descending 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pretty common, pretty popular. Okay, so on and so forth. Again, the goal here with strength is you're probably going to have a heavier load, right, with lots of rest in between. If we're looking to develop some explosive ability, we have to keep in mind that the goal is to move weight fast, okay? So we're typically not going to exceed 10 to 20 total repetitions over time. And usually our reps are typically low because after a certain point, we get slow, we're not getting the adaptation we want. Okay, so some common schemes will be 3 sets of 4, 6 sets of 3, 10 sets of 2, anything in that range, right? Again, just keep the intent in mind of what we're trying to do. So typically with novices, we'll keep them in the hypertrophy bundle for a while to build some technique and some confidence, and then we might progress them to strength. And then if they're feeling up for it, might add some power in depending on their needs. So we're going to talk about supersets, and this is how we can kind of maximize the time we have, right? So for example, if we're looking at our strength stuff, if we're doing 3 sets of 3 and we're resting 3 minutes in between, well, why don't we be productive with that 3 minutes? It doesn't have to be anything tiring. We could add another exercise in there to get the most bang for our buck in our workout. Okay, so here are a couple examples of different pairings you might want to use. We have antagonistic, contrast, upper lower, patterning, and mobility fillers. Antagonistic, fancy word for just opposite muscle groups, right? So for example, you might pair a shoulder press with a chin up, a bench press with a row. Contrast, we're looking to pair a heavy exercise with a explosive exercise. So for example, you might do a bench press with a med ball throw or a deadlift with a vertical jump. Upper lower pairing, we're just going with a lower body exercise and a upper body exercise so we avoid overall fatigue. Bench press and RDL, for example, squat and chin ups. You can see how we just have those lower upper splits. Patterning, this is where we're going to use a almost like a prep exercise with the strength exercise to help get that pattern grooved well. So for example, we might do a wall hinge body weight with a dowel or something like that before we do our deadlift. Again, this is almost just like practicing before the lift. And some calm mobility fillers. This is great too for doing like your heavier exercises. You can always pair some range of motion work in between that's not too exhausting, right? So for example, doing a squat, we might do a 90-90 stretch on our rest period. If we're doing a bench press, we might do shoulder dislocates on our rest period. Again, just to kind of grease the wheels a little bit and get as much range as we can to feel good. Okay, so how do we put it all together? First, we want to pick our exercise. Use those 6 essential movement patterns. Just do a quick Google search. You'll find a bunch of exercises that kind of fit in those categories, and pick the ones that are right for you, but pick exercise you want to do. Then you're going to want to select your tempo, right? Typically for beginners, we want to look at Eccentrics and Isometrics first. Build that skill, build that confidence in the movement, right? It does take practice before we start trying to go faster, okay? Number 3, find your equipment. Know what you have access to, right? If you only have dumbbells, barbells, find those exercises that fit the equipment you have, all right? You want to make sure that you don't go in over your head, right? You don't need a huge, complex weight room, right? For beginners and novices, dumbbells are a great starting point, okay? Very effective. Next, create your set rep blueprint, okay? What kind of rep schemes you're looking to use? Use those bundles that we put together, right, based on your training goal. And then as you get more advanced, right, you can use more complex schemes. For example, pyramid sets are great for those who have a little more experience. Otherwise, stick with your standard straight loading, right? 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12, 5x5, that sort of thing. Finally, mix in a superset, right? If you want to maximize bang for the buck, pick supersets that fit best what you're trying to do. We're not trying to get yourself exhausted, unless that is the goal, right? But we're looking to improve strength or overall well-being, right? Find something that'll help in between maximize your time. So a simple example, right? We have a couple examples here. Let's look at the A series, right? Our A1, A2, that's a pairing. We're doing a contrast pairing. So you're doing your dumbbell goblet squat, 5 sets of 4, with a vertical jump, 5 sets of 1, and then you're going to have your rest in between. All right, so that's what we have an example of a contrast pairing. Next, our B series, we have a antagonist, but also push-pull superset. Okay, so we notice our push-up has a 4-second negative on the way down with a pause. We're doing 4 sets, right? 12, 10, 8, 6. And our chin-up is the exact same thing, 4-second negative on the way down. Again, just an example. Our C series is some arm work. We're doing what we call AMRAPs, or just as many reps as possible in a minute. Again, good for isolation, segmented work, right? You can see that's a antagonist pairing as well. So this is just an example of how we took all those things we talked about and put it to use together. All right, guys, that's it for this lecture. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions, email us, info@ironperformance.ca. You can also follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as visit our website, ironperformance.ca. Until next time, guys, take care.